Thank you for staying with Daybreak. Let's continue that conversation. We're calling it State of the Race because there's quite a number of things we talk about. There's the leaked slap audio, there's Infotrack poll going on now, there's the electronic issues around IBC, there's the presidential candidates who want to be cleared. Let's see what you're saying online at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. We're still going through this conversation. Mtetezi Masese says all said and done, political parties should have their agents ready for the polls, observers and media. If it reports fairly, will provide an extra safeguard. We all have a duty as Kenyans to make the 2022 general elections peaceful, fair and credible. Okay? Let's see what else you're saying here. Conrad Kulo says the Kenyan Constitution requires that the IBC Kenya uses both the manual and the digital registers. The IBC cannot run away from what the law requires them to do. All right. Also on text on 22422, there's also coming through here. Mtetezi Masese still says on allegations of the Azimio la Umoja are very serious as they touch the very foundation of our country. The party should formally lodge a report with the DCI for thorough investigations to be conducted. All right. Let's see what else you're saying here on 22422. That's SMS line. Let us know your name and where you're texting us from. Ask Mr. Speaker, does he remember Honorable Alice Waume slapping IBC officials in a constituency last election? Let him not cheat Kenyans that no intimidation in the last 2 elections have been there. Okay? There's the last one here. I believe Chebukati should resign since he doesn't inspire my confidence. That's from Kobare. And that, the text from Kobare is where the conversation now goes, Murigi. You know, Zadwe Alliance, Sekuru Court wants Chebukati to resign. Yes. Is that a reasonable demand at this particular time? And can the IBC function without a substantive chair at this particular moment?
It's an unreasonable demand. I think they're just applying political pressure on Chairman Wafula Chebukati. Sometime back last week, I remember, if you remember this, there was a case challenging the appointment of Irene Masit, one of the commissioners to the IBC, and the court, the High Court, that was Justice Murima, was of the opinion that public interest at this point militates against affecting the composition of the IBC. It's a very critical moment right now. IBC cannot function without a chair at this point in time. IBC cannot function without numbers. We've seen the challenges that have always been there. You remember when we had issues about the composition and during BBI, those cases that revolved around the composition of IBC and whether they had quorum or not. So I think any challenge or any change in the composition of the IBC would pose a challenge to the credibility of the elections that are going to come. So basically what we have is that Chebukati has become everybody's punching bag, I would say this. It is expected as the chair of the IBC, anybody who's disgruntled with the decision that you've taken will always attack you from that point. Yeah. But that notwithstanding, and I understand where they're coming from, but our court, being a seasoned lawyer, knows that his decision is what under the bridge when it comes to Chebukati. He already has a matter that is in court. He has made an application for scrutiny, for his signatures to be scrutinized to confirm whether indeed he presented 2,000 signatures from at least 24 of the counties, regardless of whether they were accompanied by copies of the IDs or not. So I think his application, even if the court was to order otherwise, his application has to be scrutinized afresh, ensure that he has met all the criteria. But for them to ensure that they are still in the public limelight, they have to attack Chebukati.
So Chebukati is just being a punching bag?
He's a punching bag. He's everybody's punching bag at this point.
Okay. Kipto, would that inspire confidence? Should that happen? Or is it that just an unreasonable demand in a political season, 32 days to the polls?
It is too late in the game to start talking about resignation. One of the biggest problems IBC has always faced in the last 2 election cycles is that we never give room for continuity when it comes to commissioners and the chair. This is the first time I think we are going into an election with the same chair, because in 2013, as soon as Isaac Hassan was done, in 2017 he was hounded out. So this is the first time we're having a chair overseeing 2 elections, and for me that presents an opportunity for a bit of stability. Issues can be raised, but not necessarily at the expense of saying so and so must go. We can be able to handle the issues, and I want to commend IBC for for their way of dealing this time, if you compare to 2017 and 2013, there is a bit of better communication, but importantly, they are able to move with speed when it comes to addressing concerns and issues. Even for the first time, when it came to clearance of candidates, they were doing it openly, and it was a matter of public knowledge and information. Kenyans are therefore able to see how processes are run. The issues that have been raised the last 3 weeks, I don't think it has taken more than a day or two before IEBC has been able to handle and communicated clearly on their position. So for me, resignation is out of question. We can only prepare for the election with the current chair and the commission. Remember, 2 commissioners were from the past election. The other members are new. So it is good we give them room and time to be able to execute. What matters is, are the processes as per the expectation of the law? Are we following the recommendations of the Supreme Court decision of 2017? That is what I think we should be asking, rather than having sideshows of saying resignation. I would agree with Kamande that the issue of him being a punching bag, he is at the center of spotlight. Each of the coalitions, Kenya Kwanza, for example, we've raised issues with the chairman and the team, and a petition was given to them. They were able to address. Azimio has equally raised concerns. That should be the basis. I think Ekuru Aukot is more interested in litigation. Maybe gives him a bit of attention. I would ask him, it would be better for him to come to the field, and I would even pray that he's cleared so that he can be able to vie, and he asks for vote. But he has a right to raise issues, but I don't think it makes sense at the moment to say the chair to resign. What makes sense for us at the moment is processes and confidence in the electoral process. We have a limited time, and the commission has a very big mandate and task to deliver. Remember, if they fail to deliver, it is the same thing. We go back to Supreme Court, the elections can be nullified. And I think the chairman, once bitten, twice shy, he's been taken through a process where an election he presided over was nullified. Under the full glare of media and public. I don't think this time he will be interested or even be keen to be dragged through the same thing. That is why you see every single thing IBC is sending out there is being scrutinized and raised and addressed instantly. For me, that gives the process confidence. Confidence comes from consistency. Let us be consistent, let us be open, and let us be vocal about these issues this early as we head towards the election.
Okay. Let's talk about the murky politics now on the ground. There's also a lot, but before that, Dr. Peter Mbae, MCA Kabazi Ward Nakuru, says the tussle over IBC is dangerous. We don't know why there are too many arrows directed at IBC, but loss of confidence in the electoral body is highly dangerous because these are things that can lay ground for rejecting election results, especially if the issues raised are justified. It happened 15 years ago after the 2007 elections with devastating repercussions. I repeat, confidence levels in IBC as the referee should by now be over 70%. He says IBC should be keen to respond to the deflate conclusively all the allegations raised as soon as possible so that Kenyans can have faith in professional electoral management and see what they see and hear from politicians. Speaking of what they see and hear from politicians, there was a leaked audio on allegedly the deputy president thinking of slapping the president. It's been a conversation everywhere. He also came out and said that we had won the elections and we wanted to inspire him not to give up power. When such allegations come up, is this just basic politics, or is it now becoming more of a bare knuckle confrontation between the president and his deputy? Who should bear more responsibility? Who do we expect to be the bigger person?
It feels being just mere politics. It's gone bare knuckle for a while now. We have direct, you see, before then, we had indirect exchanges and other exchanges through proxies. But right now, you have direct mentions. My friend and my brother, Uhuru, and all that, and he mentions it and in rallies and all that. So I think right now it's bare knuckles. The DP is going full throttle on the president. But I think it's time to tone down. It does not add any value to the campaign. I know it is a strategy to irritate the base, their anti-Uhuru sentiments, increase them, so that you still have you still have that base intact, whatever they call them, the hustlers base intact. So at this point, I think it is good to tone down. And the same thing goes to those people around them.
Yeah.
You cannot have a person of the stature of President Uhuru Kenyatta's cousin being the one that who's leading. He's the person who's leading elders for purposes of to meet the DP, where such exchanges are being made, or where such, I wouldn't call them jokes,
yeah,
or where such things are being said. So I think they need to move away from being personal, focus more on the issues, and this applies to both sides.
Okay.
No, not just to the deputy president, but also to the president also.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kipto, was that a show of disrespect?
I think we are referring to a matter that is or under the bridge, because it's 5 years ago, and I think the deputy president has clarified in public pronouncement during the rallies that they were a team. Both of them, they ran a joint campaign, and for him, he says he was actually urging on his principle and telling him that we can't come this far and lose it. The issue of about a slap is neither here nor there. I think it was blown out of proportion, and I think it's more or less like just someone can make an off-cuff statement. My only concern is that was it a setup kind of a thing? Why would, for example, this was more or less like an official communication or conversation between elders and the deputy president that cannot even be ascertained. It has not yet been ascertained, the source, at what time the same was recorded. But whatever the case, it is a political season. It is a silly season. And as a politician and having run a campaign, I understand. A simple slip of the tongue can be twisted. Even a humble or more or less like a basic statement that has no meaning can be twisted and used against you. But this tells you, for example, about our colleagues at the Azimio, that for them they are doing very well on sideshows. They are basically trying to sidetrack Kenyans' attention from the basic problems you are facing. At the point we are sitting here and actually discussing on the veracity whether such a statement was made. If indeed, for example, it was a serious thing, then we would have known it 5 years ago, because this is a matter that happened 5 years ago, or conversation about a past. It is like historical conversation. At the moment, I would think what is of significant importance is what touches the Kenyan public or the Kenyan voter. I'm sure the Kenyan voter knows where the shoes pinches the most. When you go to a supermarket and buy, for example, an unga for 210 shillings, then you'll have a reason to think what is the direction the country is taking. And you would be keen to make a decision in the next 1 month on a coalition or on a candidate that you are sure has spoken to your interest, whereby we are talking about who offers solution, short-term and long-term. What does the country require at this point? So I think it is Trevor, it is a silly season. Anything and everything will be said, and and in fact we are yet to see everything. When you have characters like Junet Mohammed, trust me, anything can be thrown on the table, and let us treat it to be more or less like the banter, the political banter that is expected of any politics. It spices up the rest, but it doesn't distract us from focusing on what matters the most. Kenyans at this point are looking at a very consequential election. This is one of the most consequential election ever, because the coalition coming in has the very difficult task of preventing Kenya going the Sri Lanka way, and that is why you see Kenya Kwanza is making the economy to be the center of conversation, front, left, right, center, in all manner way, because this is what matters. This is the call. And I think all the other issues, we'll see it as banter, we'll see it as more or less like comic relief, but let's not take our eye off the ball, which is which way Kenya coming in the next election within the next 30 days.
Yeah. Mringi, was this really just a slip of the tongue, or are there underlying details that people should not just sweep under the rug? For example, when in response, the deputy president said that after the nullification of the election, of the presidential election results, the president seemingly wanted to take a back seat, but we pushed him to come up and do this election again.
I have to be honest, and this one, there has been a consistent campaign by DP Ruto to show that President Kenyatta was lame duck, and that was the intention. And whatever that you hear these narratives right now, we cannot sweep them under the carpet. it is one thing to say, okay, these are joke taken too far, but at the same time, it's also to take some certain things serious. One is that audio has not been denied. The authenticity of that audio has not been denied. To the contrary, it has been confirmed by the likes of Moses Kuria and the people who attended that meeting that indeed that was the DP's voice, and he was talking to those elders, trying to explain to them about the circumstances of 2017, making disparaging remarks about the president on his alleging on his condition, and we all know that what translates to. And then later on, he went ahead to say that by the time the president would wake up, he had already held 3 meetings. What we have is that it is a message, a clear message that is meant to undermine the president in the eyes of right-thinking members of the society. This has nothing to be a joke. It is nothing we can sweep under the carpet. And I think it's the high time the deputy president climbs down from his high horse and realizes that these statements will one day come and haunt him. They're not just jokes, or they're not just jokes that you make on top of vehicles while campaigning. You have to look at the ramifications and what the kind of seed that you are planting in people's mind and even in future generations. You cannot be talking to, we know in those meetings, you even have children who attend those meetings, the public meetings. So when you make such utterances, even in the public, it is a generation that you are trying to spoil. Yeah. Yes, he needs to think beyond the rhetoric, beyond 2022, and ask himself, what about the future from those utterances?
Yeah. Yes. In your view, who is undermining who? Is the DP undermining the president, or is the president undermining the DP?
My answer would be that it's not even a question of undermining. It's a question of a broken relationship. This was a dynamic duo. That is 2013 and 2017. These are president and a deputy president. And the respective positions they hold are supreme. And I think the highest 2 positions in the country. And whenever the 2 people or 2 offices fall out, the repercussions is exactly what we see. So it's a simple case of a fallout. You can't even talk about undermining per se. It's a question of a raptured relationship. And I think the last 2 years, or the first 2 years of the second term of Jubilee, the rapture was peppered over, and there was a bit of public relations to manage the relationship. But the last 2 years, it has been absolutely clear that this was a broken relationship, that in the second term, the deputy president has not been given an inch or a space to work and to more or less discharge his mandate. So from the deputy president's side, he has a reason and right to say that I was sidelined, I have not been part and parcel. I was given a constitutional mandate to be the deputy president. He participated actively in bringing Jubilee back to power in 2017. And in return, he was shunted out and was never given a chance to be able to execute his mandate, as was the case in the first term. So where I sit, it's a question of a ruptured relationship, and each party may feel aggrieved, the president may feel aggrieved, and that's why the president has been raising, saying that he never had the support of the deputy president, except that it will be ironical because he's the guy in charge. It was his call. He made the decision, for example, to do handshake. And if that was the political decision he made for second term, then he has to stick to it. You cannot have your cake and eat it, or you cannot do it the other way around. The moment he chose to do the handshake, which obliterated opposition politics in Kenya, and it would mean that we no longer have discipline in our politics, the purge that he swiftly executed for his party, both in both houses, National Assembly and Senate, and most were allies of the deputy president. So if it were you and you're the deputy president and all your allies who you worked very hard to bring in the government back in the second term are thrown out, what would you do? Would you just sit and be idle about it? So I think it's a case of a ruptured relationship, and it's a lesson we learn as a country. And that is why this time you've noticed that in both coalitions, both Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, the choice of running mate has become a serious issue. And the pledge of each of the running mate, I've seen Martha Karua going out of her way, keep saying about Kinarawangu and saying that she respects. You've seen our running mate, Rigathi Gachagua, saying it, that he knows his place, he'll work under the presidency of the His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, and he will stick to the script whereby there will be no case of disrespect, there will be no case of fights between the two offices. So what I'm happy is that as a country we've picked the lesson that when the two offices fall out, it has a ripple effect. It doesn't bode well for the service delivery of the government of the day.
Yeah.
And this time going forward, the coalition coming in, the two running mates will have more scrutiny as to how they are able to deal with their respective principle.
Yeah.
And I'm happy, for example, in our divide of coalition, Rigathi Gachagua has proven to be loyal and more or less having a working chemistry with the Deputy President.
Okay.
And the Deputy President has committed, he said clearly that he never again will we have a case of a Deputy President who is not given a chance to execute his responsibilities,
yeah.
and says that he cannot even wish the same on his worst enemy.
Okay.
And made it clear that if given an opportunity to be the President, his deputy will be mandated or will be given space as expected by the Constitution.
Okay. But Murigi, don't they have a point though? You know, doesn't the Deputy President William Ruto have a point when he says he's the one who supported the President? We all saw him campaigning for the President. The team that is with the President now were on the other side. Doesn't he have a point that it deserves some level of reciprocity?
Two things. One,
yeah.
He supported the President, but he never made President Uhuru Kenyatta the President. Uhuru Kenyatta made him the Deputy President. We all know that in that coalition, that 70% of the votes that Uhuru Ruto won with were courtesy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. And that is the reason why, it's basic numbers that we can do. And that's the reason why post 2017, Ruto has spent 80% of his time wooing strongholds that were hitherto Uhuru Kenyatta's strongholds. So he cannot tell us that he's the one who made President Kenyatta the president. It was the president's his own efforts. He campaigned, his own resources, his love for the people. That is the reason why you never had a version of Kumera Kumera or Duraku Duraku from the Rift Valley. It was us, the masses, who went out our way and ensured that in 2017 and also in 2013, we came out in large numbers to ensure that our own son became the president. That's the reason why you always hear those tags that was associated with us. And from that, we supported Uhuru Kenyatta, say, 95%. It is something that is going to be impossible this time round for Ruto to even garner. So reciprocity was there. He was given his fair share of government. Before 2017, it was a co-presidency. He was a co-president. He was given his 50% share of government. He shared out his ministerial positions, his PS position, and come after that his CSs. In 2017, the same thing. He was unfortunately he never controlled whatever that he hitherto what do you call it had. Say in Parliament, his people are removed or axed from Parliament, the majority whips and all that. But the bottom line is very simple, that at this point, the race is not between Ruto and His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta. The race is between Ruto and Raila.
Yeah. Who is getting undue support and unfair support? It
matters not. It is within the President Kenyatta's right to support whoever candidate he thinks fit. Whether he decides to use all his resources, he is still a Kenyan citizen. He is entitled to vote at the ballot. He is exercising his right. And there is no problem with that. Nobody would be, at this point, if President Uhuru Kenyatta was supporting Ruto, the attack would be coming from the other side and defense would be coming from within Ruto's camp. So it is natural. It is part of politics. But what we are saying is, the race being between Ruto and Raila, let them focus the rhetoric on each other. The president will not be on the ballot. Okay. Making disparaging remarks on his person, on his character is unnecessary and will not add any votes to any of those camps, and specifically not add any votes to Ruto. The only thing it's doing is that it is pushing away reasonable minds who hitherto were President Uhuru Kenyatta's diehards. Okay. Yes.
Kipto, I'd like to hear your response on that. And also, as you respond to this, there's another fresh twist here. Fresh boost was Emio. Karua secure support of NAT and Kupet. More than 300 people, teachers, are now saying that they'll support Raila Odinga. Is that a blow to Kenya Kwanza, or is this normal support coming from different parties? Kipto? All right, let's see if we can get Kipto back again on this conversation. Let's give him another call and bring him into the conversation. And you're saying that this is disparaging, and now there's no point for that because it's a contest between Ruto and Raila. Fair enough.
Yes.
But when teachers are now taken aside,
yes,
is this a boost or is this just a normal conversation where anybody can say something that they don't necessarily mean because at the end of the day, the person who votes, it's a secret ballot?
I know it's common for workers, and even in certain countries, for workers to be aligned to certain political parties and ideologies and to fully support those ideologies. At this point, I still do not believe that it's in the case in the country, that even if you have certain officials, I'll be very skeptical as to whether the support for the teachers amounts to support by the entire teaching bloc. I would be dishonest if I said that I believed in it. Yeah. But it is a show of confidence in Raila and Karua. And when you see the top-ranking officials of NAC, both the chair and it was the chair and the secretary general, I believe, that had hosted Mother Karua, yeah, and those teachers meeting there. So I would say it's a boost in terms of in the confidence that they have in the two and in the Azimio coalition. Yeah. They believe that their aspirations and whatever they as teachers believe in are catered for within Azimio. And it will have a ripple effect in terms of it might influence, say, certain teachers. But I also believe that there are certain teachers who've made up their decision that they are going to vote for William Ruto, whether he's endorsed or not by TSC. Okay. So I think it applies to both sides. But it is I would say it's yes by Nat and Kupet. Yeah. Yes, but it is a boost. Okay, let me see if we can have is Kipto back online so that we have his view on this. Okay, let's get Kipto back on the line. And then the other thing that I wanted us to talk about before we move on to this is let's see the feedback as we try and get Kipto, because when we move to the next topic, I don't want us to double back again. Let's bring up what you're saying. Chalo Woodrosy says manual and electronic register should be used in 9th August general elections. Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga is very right in demanding that to be done. IBC should ensure that it's implemented in full. Okay? Abdi Kadir says, let IBC Kenya not be partisan. Let Chebukati address concerns raised by both parties equally. Okay. Head of protocols, you say, being an election official in Kenya should be considered an extreme sport. On assumption of office, you become a punching bag for politicians and the subject of all manner of allegations. Should suffrage be this hard, yet it's a matter of counting. Okay. Frank Orinde says the leaked audio of the DP can't be swept under the carpet with cheap lines that it's a political witch hunt. The DP is clearly undermining the president and is demonstrating it openly. Let's not blame it on broken relationship. If he should have resigned. Oh, really? Okay. Conrad Kulo, for years, President Uhuru has been painted as a lame duck president. The leaked video was a deliberate show to stamp this claim. I think the DP lost it on this, and a public apology would have made this better. All right, Kipto, let's get your view on that before we get into the conversation of Nat and Kupet endorsement of the Azimio team.
I think my view about the endorsement of Nat and Kupet?
Yes, and about the leaked audio where people are saying that the deputy president was just deliberately undermining the president and there's no way of sweeping that under the carpet.
I don't think we've tried to sweep under the carpet the issue of undermining. I think the deputy made a fair comment in saying that he was and he's been with the president in the same team. And his contribution is matter of public knowledge. Whatever he did and his conviction in believing that them as a team together with the president could deliver in whatever way possible. And I think that is the main message that the Kenyans need to take. I think yesterday I saw the interview of women rep Wasingishu, Gladys Bosholei. She made a very interesting comment and said that I would rather have a friend that slaps me and corrects me if I'm on the wrong, rather than a person who doesn't give me any advice or anything. Which means that whatever the position, the deputy president has been vindicated that he is a team player and he meant well for the president and he actually would do anything possible to ensure the president succeeded. I don't think that is undermining, but rather that is what a team player is expected to do. You have to do everything to help your principal succeed, whatever the issue. And in fact, here we are talking about, in fact, it was like, in fact, the deputy president, if we were to go by the audio, it was more or less like a joke. He said, I was almost like doing this in terms of not saying that I have an intention to, but rather a case of I was feeling really strong about this, and this is what I was telling the president, that we can get this over the line. And true to the word, he was vindicated. Thanks to his insistence, they were able to get to where they are, despite the challenges that happened in the 2017 election. Anyway, that is what happened then. Can we then focus on what can be said about now? The two parties have gone their respective ways. The deputy president has started his way. He's vying for presidency. The president is exiting. And one of the biggest concerns that Kenyans should not lose sight of, the deputy president made a very serious comment and said that he feels he's running against his boss. And that should be a conversation that we need to have. A president that has done 2 terms must be able to exit gracefully. I want to commend the president for actually picking a transitional team. That was a concern that Kenya Kwanza had raised almost 3 weeks ago through former majority leader Aden Duale. And I think the president has acted by putting a transitional team. That is exactly what we expect of the president. Don't partake, don't participate as a partisan player because you've done your 10 years. It's time for the next team to come in place. And the best legacy, not just for Kenya but for Africa, will be a president exiting without interfering with his succession or the next election. He, as a voter, has a right to make an opinion or a comment, but he should remember he is the president. He is the symbol of authority. He is the symbol of unity. Whatever statement he makes, it is not the same statement like myself as a speaker or Kipto can make. You cannot put it on the same. Any single statement the president takes is taken very seriously. On the second issue you've raised about Kuppet and Nat endorsement, as I've said, it is the season. And I'm happy that at this point, I hate people who sit on the fence. It is good to make a decision. It is good to be clear. But remember, when you speak, and for the unions, they should remember that there's life after politics. They should balance the interest of their members, because members of Kuppet and KNUT come from either side of the coalition. So let them be seen, yes, to make an endorsement as a union, but I hope that is in consultation with their respective members so that there are no retribution from their individual members past the election. If, for example, their divide of coalition fails to win, how will they face back their respective members? But what I can say, it is an emerging trend that I think at some point you will even find media making a call. And that is the politics in the West. In the US, even media stations make a call and say, we represent this particular coalition, we endorse this particular candidate. So it is normal, and I think it shows maturity of democracy. No one should be crucified for giving a comment, for voicing their support. I'm even happy, and I'll be willing to support any single entity or body that comes out and say, we support this particular candidate. But it should not be the entities given the chance to manage our systems. For example, IEBC being a referee cannot make that call. Okay. Our media, we still have a long way to go, because Kenyans look at the media with their respective lenses. So that the moment a media will make a call and say they're supporting this particular team, possibly the other side of the divide will boycott watching, for example, that particular media station. So, but for the other segments of society, when you talk about unions and interest group, lobby groups, it is important they come out clear so that post the election it is known which stand you took, rather than being opportunistic. So let them be. Let them make a point. Let them make a case for whatever side they are supporting. And let the coalitions also go out of their way to try court these people. That's why you saw Kenya Kwanza, we went out of our way to sign charters for respective sectors, including education sector. That is part of the campaigning.
All right, as we finish on this state of the race conversation, I want us to talk about one final subtopic, the InfoTrack poll, which says Raila and Sakaja are ahead in Nairobi. Do you trust polls, Murigi? Let's start with you. Or is this the point where even the polls should just not be done? Because of the ground, they could be different.
It's always good to take these polls with a pinch of salt. We've had a history of polling in this country. I did not know of any poll apart. I think there was only one that was somehow accurate. 2013, we had polls that were conducted all the way. especially these public polls. I would have faith in internal polls for parties and, say, coalitions. Those ones are more accurate even for candidates. But these other ones, I treat them with a lot of... I don't know how I would say it, but
the numbers are exaggerated.
At times, I feel there is a motive behind, not even the numbers exaggerated. Yeah. That there is a motive behind these polls, and I don't want just talk about Infotrack. I know there is another company that has come up from the bush, from nowhere. It's called IRS. Its claims, its polls have been so consistently leaning on one side. You have other polls by, say, Infotrack, by Tifa, and then you also have accusations against another company that I do not want to talk about, where candidates say that you are ranked depending on whether you received the call or not, and what your contribution is towards the company and the polling. So I would urge Kenyans to treat those polls with a lot of suspicion. Yeah. Yes, do not believe wholly in those numbers. Maybe they reflect some truth from where we sit. Some of those polls would, if you compare with them with other polls that we know we are dealing with, then there should be some truth. But not every poll that you see around makes sense. Okay. Yes.
Kipto? What are your view on the Infotrack poll? But this one was specifically in Nairobi. Though.
My idea of the poll is that just like any other polling, opinion polls have their place, and every candidate chooses whether to take it seriously or not. As a politician, you have a look at it. You don't ignore per se. You look at it and make your conclusion. The only concern I had for the Infotrack polls, how come Sakaja is popular, and that is running on a Kenya Kwanza platform, and then you have the Azimio presidential candidate popular, way more popular than his governor candidate. So that is a point to think about. But generally, I would say Nairobi is always a battleground. Every community is in Nairobi. If our politics is always the ethnic lines we always do in voting, we are all there, and that would mean it will remain a battleground. There's no one who always has an absolute win over Nairobi. The last 3 elections have proven that. From 2007, 2013, 2017, it is always a close contest. And I think we keep focused. I looked at, if I was to go with a gubernatorial opinion polls, you could see how tight it is. But more importantly, the numbers of undecided is still significant. And I think that is where I'll be more keen on, not just in Nairobi, but across the Republic. The decision time is here, but there's a small segment that is yet to make a mind. Even if it's 10 or 15%, that is a group that will determine the direction of this election. And that's why you see both parties furiously going out of their way to campaign across the regions, whether stronghold or the areas they think they need to cover more ground. Importantly, you have the downstream tickets, governor to MCA seats. Most areas in this republic, due to shambolic nominations, the real elections will be able to present the candidates a chance to see who is popular and not popular. So that means competition will be very rife for the downstream ticket, which has an impact going up all the way to the presidential ticket on matters turnout. But as it stands, opinion polls basically give an indication, but may not be the absolute truth. That's why they always give a room for plus or minus 4 or 5. Okay. So let us just say it's an opinion and let it remain as such.
All right, let me give you a chance for closing remarks, both of you.
No, but allow me to also comment something about those polls, especially the ones that were released by Infotrack on Nairobi. Well, one thing you will notice that apart from Raila, no other candidate has hit the 50% mark in those polls. That tells you something. That number, the 44% you see, for example, for Sifuna, or even for the 99% for Sakaja, tells you something about the undecided. This 24% is a critical mass, or the 23% that is undecided. These are races that are going to be so close that whoever is going to win has to achieve a 50% mark. Yeah. So one thing is that let not any of those candidates rest and say that, okay, I am popular at 44%, I'm popular at 39%, or say that my next candidate is at 20%. There is still a huge chunk of undecided voters that might turn up and vote
tilt the scale.
And tilt the scales on the 9th of August.
Okay, closing remarks.
My closing remarks are these, that IEBC owes it to Kenyans to be transparent, to communicate, and at the same time to remain accountable. It is not in the interest of this country for them to treat all the critical information that is required for the public as secrets. Let them come out, let them prove to Kenyans that they are ready and prepared to conduct the elections.
Okay. We
We cannot have IBC of 2022 take us back to IEC of 2007.
Okay.
Yes.
Kipto? All right, that's where we leave it for now. Joshua Kipto, Nandi County Assembly Speaker and Murigi Commander Advocate of the High Court. Thank you so much for making time this morning on State of the Race. This is where we're talking about all matters, politics and everything in between. There's still a lot that's still going to happen in between here in the 32 days that is left to the polls. We'll try and make heads and tails of it all, but at the end of the day, you're the one who has the final decision, all right? Bye for now. My name is Trevor Mbije. It's always a pleasure having you with us. Up next is Cooking Tips.